Intelligent Ramblings with your host, Bill Lofton. Co-hosted by Gary Glenn and William Howington with help from John Cohn.
Good evening and welcome to Intelligent Ramblings, because we're intelligent and we like to ramble. Hence the name.
Do we ever?
I'm Bill Lofton. I'm your host with my co-host tonight, John Cohn and Mr. Gary Glenn. William Howington is not here. He is off on assignment, and hopefully he'll check in with us later. If not, he'll be here next week. Western leaders vowed to support Ukraine. Spain, Britain, Germany, and Canada, and more, vowed to continue to support Ukraine, while the biggest backer, us, has opened diplomatic relations with Russia. Is that right? Should the United States continue to support Ukraine as we sit out the rest, or should we just sit out the rest of the war and let Europe take care of it? Gary?
Well, you know, the Zelensky and Trump apparently have come to some sort of accord. What shape that will take as far as the Ukrainian mineral rights and some of the stuff that we need from them is kind of yet to be hammered out. It won't be the $500 billion that Trump had mentioned, and whether it's going to go toward what we have already invested in Ukraine, or whether it's going to go ahead toward further investment. All of that is yet.
That actually was what it sounded like to me when he was. Somebody asked him, "Well, what is Ukraine going to get out of this?" And he said, "Billions of dollars in equipment and the right to keep fighting on." Now, if he hadn't said the right to keep fighting on, I would think, well, they're basically investing in what they've already spent. They're getting that money back, and then they're on their own.
Yeah.
But then he said, and the right to fight.
And so much for settling this the minute he took office, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His 3 days to stop the war are over.
Well, we all knew that wasn't going to happen. Trump deals in hyperbole. Everything's the greatest, the best, the quickest. You know, and so you just take everything he says and go, yeah, well, we'll believe that. That's kind of my attitude toward his presidency right now. Well, I'll believe that when I see it. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, well, I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that idea. Just kind of wait and see. What is he cooking up? Because as he showed us with the tariffs, he was basically pressuring Colombia to take people.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know, and the same thing with Mexico and Canada, although that's still on the table, and you know that we're having a lot more trouble meeting some of our goals and things like that. I mean, you can't. Let's face it. Come on, just common sense tells you can't be doling out billions of dollars in tax cuts and keep up what you're doing. Now, that's part of the DOGE things to see if they can find all that money and replace it with that. I don't think you can do that either. I think you've got to have some sort of plan to raise money if you take money away. You've got to really, really cut spending, and they're trying to do that. Of course, that's not proved to be very popular, and some of those people he's hiring back. Or is he going to get rid of a bunch of people and hire back all of his cronies, give them a job? I've heard that proposed too. So I just kind of
basically infiltrate the government.
Yeah, I'm living now in a constant state of befuddlement, to tell you the truth, man. I don't know what to expect next. It's kind of like watching the circus and a whole bunch of people in that clown car.
Yeah. John, what do you think?
Well, I think your question, it was like a two-part question. Is this right? No. Do I think it's right? No, I don't think it is. I think that is not how, as a founding member of NATO and based on the support that we've given them up to now, this approach that Trump wants to take is not right. It's not the right one. Is it the one that's likely to happen because he's driving the train with the clown car in it? Yeah, it probably will go that way. The second part, should the United States continue to support Ukraine? Yes, we absolutely should. Every way we can. I think we haven't supported them as aggressively and as actively as we could have, and put that on the Biden administration. You know, they had a choice about how to prosecute this war, and they chose to let the Ukrainians fight the war and, you know, stand back and hope for the best. And I think we blew a huge opportunity to hurt Russia and strengthen Europe and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And
There probably
so
should
it's
have been-
it's disappointing to see it go this way, but that's the way it's going.
There probably should have been a few other things we could have done besides putting boots on the ground, which nobody wants, by the way, out of this whole country.
Right.
Nobody wants to see that.
Well, I've said before, I think
they.
I think they could have done something like declare no-fly zones over the areas that were taken by Russia in eastern Ukraine and Crimea, and just dare the Russians, this is not your territory, it's stolen territory. If you are in here with troops, if we catch your planes over this territory, it's on. And it's something we did in Eastern Europe in the mid-90s when Clinton was president, in Kosovo, in Serbia, and it was effective. And it would have been in Ukraine, but they chose not to be that aggressive.
Well, the other thing is we should have gotten many more of the NATO people involved in this, because it's in their best interest to rein Putin in. Obviously it is. And one thing I am tired of us sitting around and trying to be the world's policeman and the world's bank and the world's big brother. You know, we are not that. We are the leader, I think, of the free world, and leaders lead, but you got to have followers in order for a leader to be effective. So we needed to get the European people much more involved in that, which they seem to slowly becoming aware of that. And I don't know what's going to become of that.
You know, as I said earlier, Spain, Britain, Germany, and Canada have said we're all in. We will supply you, and
Good.
that goes for several other countries. I think there were like 8 countries there. I don't know the names of the other ones.
France is one of them, and they really are one of the stronger proponents of supporting Ukraine and dealing with Russia effectively. I'll just put it that way. The French do not like the Russians, and the whole thing, to me, you know, the part that we don't talk about, we talk about how Ukraine has been invaded more than once by Russia, and how the Russians aren't dealing in good faith and are, well, I'll stop right there. But the part we don't talk about is this was an opportunity to once again really gain ground on Russia, push them back, Russia's nothing but a gas station. Economically, they're a drop in the bucket, and their military is, put it this way, it's not up to
Archaic.
standard.
Archaic.
It's substandard. We could have done so much to stabilize the entire world and we missed the opportunity. So we're just gonna have to deal with them again and again until we do that.
Well, we'll have to lay a lot of that at the door of the Biden administration. They were reluctant to do much of anything.
I agree, and so was President Obama in 2014 when Russia went into Ukraine the first time. Could have had just a whole different response. It would have been way more effective, especially after the Russians shot down a commercial aircraft and killed over 200 people. We should have just lit them up right there. I'm feeling combative tonight. Rehashing all this stuff, and it's just chapping me. I don't know. It's plus I'm grumpy and I'm old, and
I'm with you there, brother.
Old and grumpy.
Old and grumpy.
There should be a special forces unit made up of old grumpy guys. It could be funny and maybe even really good, effective.
Well, as long as we didn't have to move too fast or too quickly or run too far or jump too high.
If we could do the whole thing on scooters, little electric scooters like you see at Walmart.
Yeah,
if
or
we
those
could
little e-bikes.
use those, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I digress.
I've been digressing for a while, but it is what it is. Anyway, guys, along the German line, let's see. Along the German lines, a much more conservative government is being installed after all these last elections. What is driving this global shift to the right? Is it just immigration? Germany has rejected the ultra-right, but it's still a shift. Denmark, an exception, remains liberal and fairly successful. How? Well, I want to read from a 1989 essay and subsequent book by a political theorist, Francis Fukuyama. No regime, no socioeconomic system is able to satisfy all men in all places. This includes liberal democracy. Dissatisfaction arises precisely where democracy has triumphed most completely. It is a dissatisfaction with liberty and equality. Those who remain dissatisfied will always have the potential to restart history. Basically, what he's saying, these whiny-ass bastards don't want to look at a democracy and enjoy it. They got to stir the pot and start something up. And I do think that immigration has got a lot to do with it. Because what immigration does is it gets the people listening, like me. I'm 100% for let's doing something about immigration. Not what they're doing now, but immigration needs to be fixed. Well, it's a lot worse in say, Germany, where after the Syrian escapade that happened over there, in Germany, the president, and I can't remember, Angela Merkel, said,
Chancellor.
Open arms. And that is when they basically opened the doors to immigrants to come to Germany. Well, some people in Germany didn't like that at all. And they came up with this new group, ADF, a fringe group, who in 2024 became the second most powerful group in Germany. It's like the Republicans, Democrats. It's like the Democrats are right now, the second most strong political party on the planet, or in the United States. But that is what those people started going. We don't want these people coming in. We don't want these Muslims coming in our country, changing things. We want to be all white and Christian, and that's what we want. We don't want people coming up here and using up our hospitals, using our schools, using all that. And what they've done is they use that as a reason to start their party to the far right. That's my rant. Gary?
I think part of it is fear. The fear of losing the way of life. Let me tell you, when we were in Germany a few years back, there was a book called The Death of the West. Okay? And the premise of the book is that the people who need to be having children are quit. They're either having one or none. And the people who don't have the economic feasibility or the wherewithal to give good lives to their children are nevertheless having 6 or more. When we were in Germany, outside of the kindergarten that we were in for our competition, the space at the gym and so forth, you know how many people we saw wheeling a baby around? One couple. One. It was so unusual that my buddy Tim Moon stopped and took a picture, because we didn't see any kids, almost no young people at all. So what's happening is people that are coming in are changing the way of life. Now there is an ultra liberal part of the German political landscape that also has a foothold there. I think that the people like you mentioned Denmark, they are fairly liberal in a lot of their social policies, and right now they seem to be surviving and doing pretty well. Now, whether that will continue or not, I mean, we've seen a shift, obviously, with the election of Trump. We've seen a shift to the right here in this country, and it's going on worldwide because people are afraid, and fear is a big motivating factor. They are afraid of losing their ways of life, things that they've always known and things that have worked. And just because it's always worked doesn't mean you necessarily need to keep doing it if it's quit working. But they say, well, it's still working pretty good for me, so why do we need all these changes? And I don't like it. And so I think we're seeing the people that are trying to hold the line, and a lot of those people turn to be more right-leaning, more conservative people. And these are the people that are getting put in office right now.
Yeah, I think that immigration is one of several factors. Gary just talked about immigration and change in society due to immigration and other factors. I mean, societies change. You can accept it and work with it, or not accept it and try to go back. The bad news for all those folks is you can't go back. It's not going to work. Hate to break it to you, but let's go forward. The hard part is convincing voters to let go of that fear that Gary was talking about, and go forward. And they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it in Germany. The 20% of people that voted for the AFD, and they don't want to do it here. There's plenty of examples of folks that we know who are afraid. They can't shake the fears and the prejudices that they grew up with. They can't grow out of them. They just want to turn to the right. They want it to go back to the way it used to be in theory. And I keep saying you can't go back. It wasn't even that way to begin with. So Don't try to go back. Let's go forward.
It ain't never going to be 1973 again.
Oh my gosh, please no.
I don't know. 1973. What?
If I had my knowledge that I have now, and I wasn't such an idiot back then, I would
Yeah.
absolutely love to go back to 73. It was a great time.
Yeah,
I miss
lots of hair, great music, and really ugly clothes.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
But,
Well, you talked
Pretty
about
much.
Denmark
What-
being an
what were you worried
exception
about?
and being a liberal and successful country, and they're the countries in that part of the world like Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Germany used to have this figured out, and they're struggling now. But in general, they have a more liberal form of government. They have a model that works better, quite frankly, than our model when it comes to healthcare, education, employment, you name it. They are getting it right. Their citizens are happier in general. And to go back to immigration, yes, all the countries in Europe have seen an influx of people that have been pushed out of Iraq, Syria, all those places in the Middle East, Northern Africa. They're trying to get out for good reason, and the closest place they can go is somewhere in Europe. So they're all dealing with that.
Big shout out to
Immigration.
everybody out in the audience. I want to say hello to you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Please make your thoughts known and absolutely comment. Let us know how what you think. Not just
Thank
what
you
we
for
think, but
being
what
here,
you
y'all.
think.
Yeah, and some
Sorry,
of that
I'm so close to winding up, and then I'll get out of the way. Excuse me. Is it just immigration? Gary asked in his question. It is, but let's recognize that immigration is one of those levers, one of those tools that political parties use to
Well put.
to manipulate opinion, politics, voting blocks, and move people in the direction they want them to go. And they can say, oh, we did great with immigration, vote for us. Or they could say, you're doing terrible with immigration, vote for us instead. It's, in a lot of ways, it's both a real problem and a tool, a lever. And it's important to recognize which way it's being used, when it's being used on you.
Well, you've got to have enough sense. Me, for an example, I'm very much for something being done about immigration, and we've stopped it at the border, and I'm glad of that. I actually am. We need to open it back up a little bit, and so we can get some people to work that need that want to work. But I'm not my education or my intelligence or whatever, I'm not so ignorant to think that that's the only way. On the other end, I'm ecology. I'm extremely conservative. And the military, I'm extremely conservative. Ecology, I'm liberal. The military, I'm conservative. And I'm able to distinguish between those instead of going, oh, immigration, let's vote Republican. There's things I agree with the Republicans, and some things just disgust me about the Republicans. There's some things I believe in what the Democrats say, and there's other things Democrats say that disgust me. I just want to, you're full of shit. I don't want to hear anything about it. It's like, saw an article about this mealy mouth female up in, I think she's in Michigan. She goes by initials. I don't know her name because I don't want to know her name. But she's a congresswoman from up there up north somewhere. Michigan, I believe. I'll have to look it up, and I apologize for not knowing that information on my rant. But they're complaining about we don't have enough. We're a third world country now. Who the hell came up with that idea? You know, United States is the greatest country on the planet, and it's great to live here. If you're born an American, that's a one-up on about 3 gazillion people. Just because you're an American. And I'm sick of people going, oh, well, we don't get this, we don't got this, we don't do this, we don't do that. Well, you know, suck it up. You know, pull your big girl panties up, you know. Life ain't always roses and white wine. Sometimes it's a damn basil plant and some tomato sauce. You just don't know. And I mean, that's what I feel about it, you know. Quit expecting so much, you know, and then you won't get disappointed. You want something, get a second job. Shut the fuck up.
Well,
okay, I'm done.
Some people have never known anything but prosperity. When they say we have no prosperity, they've never known anything but prosperity.
Yeah.
We're spoiled. We're spoiled.
Yeah, spoiled right.
I think some of the Nordic countries have perhaps not felt the crush of immigration yet, but that may be coming. And they have their problems too. You know, John, you're right. You know, most of those people up there are pretty happy, but they have their problems. They don't have. When I was in Finland a few years ago, I had a fellow tell me, he said, you know, we don't really have a problem here with obesity because people there like walk or bike most everywhere they go. They don't have they don't assume that everybody needs an automobile to get around. So they walk and said, what we do have a problem with is alcoholism because it stays dark there most of the time. You know, and they drink a lot of coffee up there. But overall, you know, their health system is pretty good there. They have a lot of free educational things that people can take advantage of there. The problem is, for some reason, we have this ostrich mentality that we stick our heads in the sand and we say, well, that's another country, they're doing that, but we got it better here, so let's just keep doing what we're doing. Why don't we look at what's working and see if we can adapt it to us?
Good
That
point.
would seem to me to be a much more reasonable way to approach this, particularly in regards to things like healthcare and education. What are other countries doing? Or can we do it? Maybe we look at it really hard and say the answer is no, we can't do it here. But unless we take a look at it and have some people look at it and come up with a few things to try, how will we ever know? You know, I think that's the problem what we have here. We're a little bit arrogant, and with some justification. But just because the other guy thinks of it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad idea. Sometimes people come up with a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
What's the old thing? Even a blind hog finds an acorn every now and then. Right? Some people can come up with a good idea, sometimes in spite of themselves. It's a good idea. So let's look at some of this other stuff. What's working around the world? How can we adapt it here, or can we? You know, I look at this. We seem to have a scattershot mentality now at the highest levels of our country. Let's just start shooting all this stuff out and see what sticks. Let's throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Let's fire all these people. Well, no, we can't fire them because they're nuclear engineers and we might need them to keep things from blowing up. Well, we got to hire all them back. Come on. I mean, that's no way to run a business or a country. Like I think I said on last week's show, you have Elon Musk holding that chainsaw up there. Sometimes you don't need a chainsaw. You need a scalpel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cut out the stuff. Let's cut the fat out. Let's see what's quit working. Nobody wants to have fraud, waste, or abuse.
Well,
Nobody.
let's skip over to the next topic.
Is.
Let's skip over to the next topic, Gary. And federal workers sue over Musk threat to fire if they don't explain a cost accomplishments.
Well, they don't. Billy,
What do
they
you
don't
think?
even know what to do about. They don't even know what to do about that because some of the people that the administration put in charge have told them, don't do that. So
Yep.
yeah, Musson, you got to do that. And then other people that are in their immediate supervisors say, no, you don't have to do that.
Well,
What do
the
you
crazy
do?
the crazy part's Musk isn't even in charge. He's not a government employee.
No, he's a
advi-
consultant.
He's an
Advisor,
advisor to the
consultant.
president. He has no. He can't do anything. He can say, "Hey, Trump, you need to fire all these people." That's about it. He has
Well,
no.
that's- yeah. No, he has no quote official authority, but he's got a lot of real authority.
And
We can call it what
somebody
he
was
wants to.
somebody
He's
was
got too
asking me
much
today,
influence.
what is the criteria for doing his job? And I said there is no criteria because they hadn't made it up. Usually when you make a job, you list the job, you list your qualifications, and you list what the job's supposed to do. That piece of paper does not exist.
Well, go back to what I just said 5 minutes ago, a scattershot mentality. Let's just come up with an idea, blow it out there, and see if it can walk. Is it a good idea? I don't know. Let's just try it.
Well, I
Let's
mean,
see what's
we
happening.
we all know the government's bloated. We know that. But just going in there and, like you said earlier in the broadcast, is he picking out certain people that he can slam his people in there? You know,
I don't
You know, the
and I
thing
don't
about
think
the
anybody does.
infiltrate the
about-
infiltrate the dewdrop in. You know what I mean?
The
Are we
thing
that
about
stupid?
his
Or
his
sit there and watch
request-
this shit happen? Go ahead, John. You're going to have to interrupt me.
Sorry.
I'm on a roll.
all right. Well, to go back to, was this a good idea to ask them to explain their accomplishments? Well, no. In general, from a management point of view, that's a bad way to do it. You shouldn't have to justify your existence week to week to somebody who is, outside of your organization. You might need to do that for reporting purposes and communication purposes with your direct manager, but it's not, it doesn't, everything is negative about something like that. It just makes those people, federal workers, feel unwanted. It makes them feel like people don't have confidence in them.
We don't.
And
I don't.
and well, I'm gonna disagree and say you should have, because for the most part,
I don't trust our government as far as I can throw it.
for the most part,
Haven't in years.
the rank and file person who's working in the federal government,
It's
Just
fat,
trying to do a
lazy,
good
and
job.
useless.
they're trying to
most
do
part.
a good job.
Well, then, Billy, you sound like you're supporting everything Doge is doing. Let's just
Exactly.
get rid of everybody.
I'm real close, but
It's
They've
coming
gotta
from
be-
the
You
dark
got
side, Bill.
You got.
it's
yeah,
got to
you
be
got
more
people-
of a. It's got a scalpel. The scalpel approach. I agree with you 100%, but it just needed to be done 30 years ago, and it should. I mean, our
Well,
government, we're outspending ourselves.
Well, bureaucracies tend to self-perpetuate. They just keep adding stuff. You'll never see anything being taken away, and some of that is justified because you got more people. You got to have more. You got more people that you got to take care of. You got more people you got to look at. You got more people that you got, so you have more people that have to supervise them. Is there waste and bloat and fraud? Sure. There can't be anything other than that on certain, we hope, rare occasions in the government our size. You do realize that we are the third most populous country in the world behind China and India. And we're, I guess maybe the third biggest country in the world too, behind Russia and Canada.
And listen to this for some perspective. There are about 2 million federal employees That number has been the same since 1995.
Then we had too many in 1995.
Well, it hasn't changed, and our population has gone up a lot, and they're trying to do more with the same amount. And I think that
I think that's a pretty good stat, John. That's the same.
Yeah.
You had the same number of employees for 30 years.
yeah. And here's the rest of the story. Is there fraud, waste, bloat? Sure there is.
Hell yeah.
Is there fraud, waste, and bloat in private enterprise outside of the government? Oh yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
but
like
not
the
to the
government has a
degree.
monopoly on
Not
that.
not to the degree our government does, because those people you're talking about outside the government, they got to make money. And when they start not making money, then somebody goes, wait a minute, we ain't making money. Get rid of those 10. Let's see if we'll make some money now.
Kind of like what Elon Musk did in his private company.
Yeah. Slice and dice. Go in there and clean house.
So how did that work out for Twitter?
It's still
they
up.
fired a couple thousand employees.
Fired shitload, and they're still going.
They're
Losing money
were the
out to
first-
yin yang.
Ask yourself, is this the way to run a railroad?
I've
if
gone
you
into
fire-
a business. I've
Let
gone
me
into a
finish.
business
Let
where
me
there
finish,
was.
Bill.
They talk fast.
If you fire 2,000 people willy-nilly, you're just out the door. There's too many cars in the parking lot. That's a direct quote from Scott McNeely of Sun Microsystems. He would walk through the parking lot, and if there were too many cars in it, he would say, it's too many cars in the parking lot. Let's fire some folks. Musk did it at Twitter and almost crashed and burned. They missed crashing and burning by a really small sliver. And it wasn't Musk that brought them back. It was the guys that had to stay there night after night, propping up the system until they could get a handle on it and get it running again. And it's not a good thing to operate a private company that way. It's not a good thing to operate the government that way.
Well, I'll give you an example. I went into a business as a chef. We took over a office building that served breakfast and lunch to about 650 people every day. And when I got there, we had 60 employees. After I was there a month, we had 28, and we still ran.
Okay.
And the first person that got chopped was the person that was making the most money. And the second person that got chopped was the other person that made the most money. And then we rounded up the troops and said, okay, this is the way it is. We're here to make money. We're not here to give it away. And you've had 22 more people than you needed. If you don't like the way it's happening, leave. You know what? We turned a profit. Big time profit.
Yeah.
We made all our exams that we had to go through from all the public health departments. We got A's. But you know why? Because I worked 8 days a week.
Yeah. How'd that work?
And
out
I was
for
the
you?
one I was the one that went in there and cleaned that kitchen. It's a huge kitchen. And I cleaned every piece of it. So they would see me doing it. That's what you got to do. But the point of me telling you this little story is the fact that it can happen. You can go in and clean house and it keep on running.
Does
you
it
just
run
kinda
as
wait.
well?
But no, we ran better. We made more money. We were cleaner. We were faster. People left on time. There was no overtime. You've just got to learn. You got to put the building blocks back together. Every kitchen I ever went into, I ripped it apart, put it back together. Literally, ripped it apart and put it back together. And I never
I've
ran a
lost a couple-
kitchen that I didn't make a money. I didn't never run a kitchen that my profit margin went better when I left than when it was when I got there. Never. 30
Well,
years.
the numbers,
I'll
Bill,
give
the
you-
numbers you talked about, going from 60 something to 20 something, those are actually reasonable numbers, especially if the business had been in place for a long time and just had like accreted people over time. But to use Twitter as an example, to go from 2000 to 20 something is stupid. It's not good business.
That's
That is
crazy.
just stupid.
I didn't know it was
and-
that many.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's-
I mean, they
yeah,
were
but
down
he's-
to 20 something software engineers
But
propping
he
up.
still was up and never went down.
They
He never went down.
the
Now that
the-
180 people that got canned, how much money is that saving?
no,
Say
not
50
180. It went from a couple thousand employees down to 20 something.
Okay,
So
say 900.
1900.
1900 times $50,000. What's
more
1900
than
times
that.
15? How much is 1900 times 50,000?
Oh gosh,
Real fast. 19 times 5.
I'm gonna get out my
45 plus 50. That's
45,
I
95.
use my brain
95.
for that.
That's
anymore.
95.
Not,
1900.
not $950,000.
95. 1900 people at 50,000 each is $95 million.
He saved $95 million the first year. You want to know why this guy's the richest person on the planet? Because he took people that were making millions of dollars, got rid of them, and he's still running it, and it never crashed. I mean, you got to give him props for that shit, man. They're still up and running. And he just
That's
whacked
right, and
$100 million he saved.
they're serving a quarter of the audience they served before. They've lost a lot of subscribers. More than half of the subscribers that were originally on Twitter are gone.
Yeah, but it will.
And
It will
does that
build.
equate? Does that equate to loss in advertising revenue? I'll give you another example.
His
I've
advertisers left. His advertisers
Yeah,
won't
right.
have a damn thing to do with him because he's
That's
a
right.
jerk. Who
Well,
would
and
want
the
to
other
work
thing-
for somebody
so-
like that?
Somebody's
you
advertising.
say-
And what is the point? What is the point of operating your
90
business that way?
You save
the
$95
business
million
ethics of what he
here.
does are terrible. Sorry.
Well, I'm just
Go,
saying.
Gary.
What do you? Let me talk a minute. All right, guys. you save money here, but on the balance sheet, does it equate? If you lose the quality of your product and nobody wants anything to do with you, oh yeah, you saved all those salaries, but you don't have any revenue coming in because nobody wants anything to do with you. Okay, I've lost jobs where I was the best in the state and some of the best in the country at what I did, but I got caught in a cost-cutting measure. Now, did the people who replaced me, were they as good as me? I don't think they were. Now, could they keep rocking along at about half-ass doing stuff? Oh, yeah, they could do that. If you don't care about quality, okay, fine. Just gonna throw that, and I see that particularly in the industry I grew up with, the broadcast industry. I see that all the time because, quite frankly, some of it just sucks, and sucks out loud. It's not even close to what we had and what we did as far as who we're serving, the local audience. It's just awful. It's just awful stuff. And these people are not being trained to. And the reason, we've gone from people that. What's the level of trust, John? You probably got it. You probably pulled this up. The level of trust in the news media now is about 29% or something like that.
It's pretty
At one
low. It may
point-
be worse than Congress.
At one point, Walter Cronkite was the most trusted man in America. We've gone a hell of a long way from that because we've cut corners and we've told people they can do things when they can't. We haven't been back to the moon. They're all talking about going back to the moon. You realize we went to the moon in the late 60s and the early 70s with none of these bells and whistles. We sent people there and we brought them back safely. Have we been back since 1972? The answer to that question is no, we haven't. Because we've told people that they know what they're doing when they don't. You know what the Peter Principle is, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You rise to the level of your incompetence.
Yes.
Okay? We have promoted people past the Peter Principle. We have told them they know what they're doing when they don't. We haven't been back to the moon. Well, have we had shit blow up and crash and burn? Oh, yeah, we've had that. But nobody seems to be too upset about it until they're upset about it until the voracious monster that is the news cycle moves on to something else. Right now, we're all up a Twitter, pardon the pun, about what's happening in the airline industry. Because it seems like every day now we got some weird crap happening because we don't have the people in place that can keep stuff from happening. They almost had a collision at an airport because they had a passenger jet coming on. Some private jet just takes it up into himself, come trucking across the runway. They were seconds away from hundreds of people dying.
Thank goodness for that Southwest flight crew.
Yeah,
that executed that go around with seconds.
They knew what they were doing, John. They knew what they were doing, and they were able to do it. Now, had they had somebody in there that saved them a little money, maybe they didn't have quite the training, but we can get him in there. We can get him in there for $30,000 a year less. We can put him in there, and he can do it, sorta, kinda. Maybe that wouldn't have happened that way. I don't understand how some of this stuff happens, except the thing that I've come up with there is the malady. There's a malady sweeping the country I call SFB. SFB. That's shit for brains. And it's happening at the highest levels of Congress all the way down to anybody you can meet on the street. You watch it every day. There's something that pops up in the news cycle and you go, that was just stupid. Who would do that? Oh, SFB. Right. There it is. It's infected the country, and it's starting to infect the world.
I like that, Gary. That's good.
It really is. And you know what? The thing about it is, if there was a vaccine for SFB, the people who are infected with it wouldn't take it.
Because they know better.
Yeah, they know better. That's why we got measles popping up again.
Well, we've talked about the Peter Principle and SFB, and you can add Dunning-Kruger to that list. People think that they're so smart, their kids don't need measles vaccine. 70 kids now in West Texas and New Mexico have the measles.
And one is
why should my child? Wow. Yes, one has died. Why should my child be exposed to the measles because you don't get a damn vaccine? Okay, if you don't want to get your kid vaccine, then homeschool them. Don't put them in the class with my kid. Homeschool them.
They don't need to be in school.
They don't need to be in school. I mean, how many people? When we were growing up, how many people? I mean, have you ever heard of anybody having a bad reaction when we were growing up?
No.
Ever?
I haven't. No.
Once.
No.
I'm sure we were the first ones to get the measles vaccines, and if anybody was going to have a problem, our generation was going to have it. And
you remember getting it on the on the sugar cubes for polio, right?
Loved it.
I remember after church we would go line up in the gym at Jefferson High School and get those little sugar cubes with the polio vaccine. And and when's the last time you heard of anybody coming down with polio? I'm sure that you can find isolated instances of people that have terrible reactions to vaccines, but they have saved many, many, many millions more than they have affected adversely. They have saved these people from dying. And I'm sorry if it, for the people that it didn't help. I really, really am.
Well, I may be wrong. I may be wrong,
but global stuff.
It might be another damn disease or what we had, but when my brother Dickie got whatever it was, I'm thinking it was measles. My mom and dad put me in the room with him.
Oh, that was probably chicken pox.
Chicken pox, is that what it was? I know it itched like hell.
Probably that. Yeah,
They stuck me in a room with them so I'd get it too, so we didn't have to worry about it when we got older.
Oh, I had all those things. I had all those things, and I remember I caught chicken pox in the summertime, so I couldn't even stay home from school. I was already home from school. I thought it was a terrible waste of a perfectly good disease. So
Yeah.
it kept me out of school, and talk about miserable. And it was hot and itchy at the same time, man. But yeah, we caught a lot of that stuff. But we can prevent this kind of suffering for most people. Why don't we do it? SFB.
Well, we got
To go back to the number really quick that you guys were asking for, 31% of Americans approve of the news media.
Yeah.
So, which means 69% do not approve of the news media.
And it used to be those numbers used to be flipped.
Yeah.
And in fact, it skewed more towards trusting. In fact, when one of the reasons that we got out of the Vietnam War, Johnson heard Cronkite say something against him. He said, if we've lost Cronkite, we've lost the country. So we started getting out of Vietnam.
Yeah. I think one of the good things I saw this week was people at town halls for members of Congress speaking their minds about what's going on in Washington, and them hearing it firsthand and realizing that, wow, these people are voters. We need to listen to what they're saying and rethink what we're doing.
That's
that one lady lit him up. That one lady just lit him up big time. We're listening and we will take action.
We're voters.
Yeah.
I don't know how much voter remorse we're having.
If we still have a country in 4 years.
Well, we're as we said,
United States of Trump.
The whole country is skewing toward the right, but there's still some things. Most people are for compassionate government. If you truly need help, people want you to get help. What we've done, though, is we just went in there, like I said, with that chainsaw and just, a chainsaw, when you start swinging a chainsaw, you cut down a whole bunch of stuff, and some of it needs to stay up. Well, that's just the price we pay.
Move fast and break things. It is not the way to run your government.
Give me a break. Oh well. Okay. End of my rant. I get on with the soapbox.
Yeah, we let you talk, Victor.
Thank you. It's just the knees making me grumpy.
Hey, Bill, can I jump in with my practical note about inflation really quick?
Sure,
Take
John.
me like a minute and a half.
What? Okay. Go.
Okay, go. Okay. So this is an email that I got this week from one of my distributors. And I'm not going to read it to you. And you're saying, thank goodness.
Thank you.
What it says is, due to the recent implementation of tariffs on goods originating from China, Mexico, and Canada, and other announced actions, prices will be modified as costs are passed to us by our vendors, which means prices are going up. And they're going up for my customers because I am not going to pay 20% increases on cable, for example. A roll of wire has gone up $200 per 1,000 feet. I'm not paying that. My customers are paying that. So if you wonder what happens, what the result of tariffs are, there's a real world example. It's going to cost somebody now $500 for a 1,000-foot roll of network cable. And there's nothing I can do about it, but I got to make money too. And I'm not making more money because the price went up. I'm making the same small amount of money that I'm making 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago. It's just I guess it's just a real world example of what happens as a result of tariffs.
Well, and inflation and law of supply and demand. Right now, you and I and Billy, you all remember us. We go to the grocery store and pay $1.25 for a dozen eggs. It's $8 now in some parts of the country. So are the restaurants and so forth? Waffle House and Denny's has already said, yeah, we're gonna have to raise our prices.
Oh yeah, they have a
Denny's has an egg surcharge.
egg surcharge.
Yeah.
So does Waffle House.
So, yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Go out there and build me a chicken pen.
You and me both, Bill. I don't think my neighbors would like it, but I would love it.
That's a good thing of living in. That's a good
No,
thing
no,
about
no.
living in the country. I can do whatever the hell I want. Ain't nobody's business.
Take it from me. Your neighbors would not like it. Our next door neighbors have got chickens, and that rooster crows all the damn time. Not just in the
Do the
morning.
roosters wake you up in the morning?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's got to be cool.
They don't care that you're trying to like finish a good night's sleep. They just
No.
the
They don't
sun
care
is
that
up
I'm
and they're gonna crow.
It hadn't been crowing as much lately. I don't know if somebody got to it or not. Wasn't me. I tell you, wasn't me.
Guys, that kind of just winds it up. Another hour
All
of
right.
Intelligent Ramblings. I want to thank everybody in the audience, and I want to thank everybody that watches this after we are no longer live, because we seem to
Yeah,
see a
thank
lot
you.
of people there. And if
Good
anybody
to see your
has any
views on YouTube.
questions or whatever, you can go to our website at intelligentramblings.com and make your comments there, or email them to us, and we will respond to it. Hope everybody has a hell of a week.
And be safe. And be
Good
kind.
night. Be kind. Some kind.
Good night.